Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of the Necromaniacs Horror Podcast. It's Necro Thursday again. I'd like to thank everyone who's been listening and sending in calls and recommendations for movies. It's been a blast. This week, we have a very special guest. Due to some scheduling issues, I've called upon my lovely wife, Tina Hill, to sit in as co-host on this week's episode. But before we get going, I just want to shout out the other horsemen of the podcasting apocalypse. If you're listening to Necromaniacs, you should definitely be checking out these other shows if you are not already. Kicking things off every other Monday, we've got Brandon Legion's Horror Wolf 666. Brandon and I are also doing some collaborations. We're doing the Black Lodge, where we trade off which podcast hosts the episode, where we discuss Twin Peaks, the legendary show by David Lynch. Brandon and I are also doing Abraxas Horn along with Matt Prizzo, and we're going to be getting some work in this fall on some brand new material. Up next in the rotation, we've got Jackie Smith's Into the Necrosphere, the finest extreme music podcast in the land. Wednesday is Everything Went Black, as well as Iblis Manifestations. Thursday is Necro Thursday, where the Necromaniacs podcast comes to you, as well as Day One of Soul Knocks by Carl Hykara. Friday, Spitball Media comes at you with an irreverent take on popular culture. Saturday is a day off. It's fall. Halloween is around the corner. So go out, buy yourself a scarf, have some pumpkin spice lattes, get into the spirit. Sunday, the Lord's Day, the sinister minister, Carl Hykara, comes back at you with Day 2 of Soul Knocks. Carl and I are doing a collaboration called Darkness Weaves, where we discuss the work of Carl Edward Wagner. We're finishing up the Darkness Weaves novel right now, and we're going to be moving on to some more short stories by Wagner, featuring the Cain character, the mythical swordsman. We got some other stuff in the works for Eldritch Tales, and Carl and I are actually doing a side project called Hollow Lands. We'll be having some music debuting fairly soon. And that's it. That's a full week of content for you guys. So before we get going, has there been anything interesting that we've been up to, Tina? I know that last weekend we saw Slayer.
Hi, everyone. Yes, that was a big one for us, going to see Slayer. It was really fun. Turned into a weekend road trip.
Yeah. Have you ever seen Slayer before?
No, I had tickets to their farewell tour, but I wasn't feeling well the day of the show, so I ended up giving my tickets away, which I kicked myself for.
There's been some shows we've been watching. I know that we're into Task, which is on HBO right now.
It's a great show. Highly recommended to anyone who loves mystery, crime, and drama.
How did we find out about that show? Just randomly?
Yeah, I kept seeing it advertised on HBO whenever I'd open the app to look for something to watch. And I watched the preview and I was hooked.
Now, connected to that is the Mayor of Easttown.
Oh my God, it was so good. I don't know why I slept on it all these years. I know it came out in 2017, I believe. And I just had an aversion to it because everyone was saying, you have to watch it, you have to watch it. Finally broke down. Amazing.
Yeah, that's a show that a lot of people recommended to me. And I think I may have even started watching it, but didn't continue with it. But it's a really, really good show. It takes place in Pennsylvania, in like the rural, Pennsylvania area. So, yeah,
Easttown.
Fictional. That's a fictional town, right? Yeah. So it just has that vibe, and it's very accurate to Pennsylvania for any of you guys out there. I know that we have a strong representation in Pennsylvania. We got Mike, we got Tavis, we got a bunch of dudes out there that are from PA. So if you haven't checked this out, definitely check it out and let me know if it's accurate.
It's also from the same people who did Task, and it's from the same region of Pennsylvania as well. That's how I've decided to watch Mayor of Easttown, is from watching Task.
Now, this past weekend, we kind of went into this Nicolas Cage sort of vibe, and
Nick Cage-a-thon.
yeah, Nick Cage-a-thon, and we watched some classics.
Starting with Con Air, which Mike kind of fell asleep
Nope,
near
that was
the end.
Face Off.
Oh, Face Off. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I apologize.
Yeah, we started watching, but you know, all right, look, Friday, the end of the week is tough sometimes. You know, I was up at like 3:00 Friday morning. I was tired. We went out to eat. It was later in the evening, so we started watching Face Off. Actually, during dinner, we reached out to Brandon Legion about doing a Everything Went Black Mount Rushmore of Nick Cage films. So that's coming down the line too now.
Very excited for that.
But that gave us like the inspiration to watch Face Off, which is like one of the most preposterous premises.
It's amazing. I forgot how much I loved really bad 90s action films. It made me feel very nostalgic.
The thing about Face Off too, which I back then in the 90s, I was like way into like all this like Hong Kong John Woo stuff, and John Woo did Face Off. So I got really excited. I'm like, it's got Nick Cage, it's got John Travolta, it's got, you know, dudes with two pistols shooting at each other, and it was just cool. I was like, this is going to be great. I just, you know, what?
You should tell them about your first experience watching it when you were in college, right?
No, not college.
After college? Oh, yeah, after college.
This
yeah.
is like, I was living in Boston, Mission Hill, the infamous 38 Calumet location, which is it's been cited in articles on Vice for serious derelict behavior. Vice wrote an article about it once, actually. But yeah. So anyway, one of my roommates came back with a burned bootleg DVD of Face Off. He bought it on the street from some guy, right? And I was like, oh, cool, let's watch this. So we put it on. And back then, there was like this whole thing of people recording movies in the movie theater with a camcorder. So that's what we bought. We have like a camcorder capture of Face Off in a movie theater by a guy sitting in the movie theater. And then he ripped it to some DVD-Rs, and they weren't even proper DVDs, and sold them on the street with some like photocopied artwork as the cover. So that was how I got to experience Face Off for the first time. Because of the angle that they were shooting from, everyone's face was a little distorted. You can hear audience members getting stoked when they pulled out their pistols and everything. And I was like, people were like, yeah, you know, like when the guy pulls out the ivory guns, you know, and I'm like, that was the first time I saw it. And then subsequent years, I watched it before. You know, maybe it was like streaming somewhere. But yeah, I've catch that movie a couple times. But what a preposterous premise, though.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's so good.
But, you know, even though it's like, it's still a John Woo film. So there is all that cool, like, cinematography. There's like, Woo made the movie like he was doing it in Hong Kong with the kind of overblown acting, and the performances were like definitely over the top a little bit.
Outlandish scenarios.
Yeah, the scenarios. But it's just a fun, crazy movie, man. You know, and then we watched Con Air. With Nicolas Cage has like some fantastic hair in that movie.
Oh my God, that's even better, I think. Especially with that accent.
Yeah, Nicolas Cage plays a really good rural white guy. Let's put it that way.
He was a military dude in the movie.
Right, but he also had that kind of southern thing going on.
Correct.
Yeah, and then, you know, with the hair and everything.
Oh, it's so good.
But it kind of had a star-studded cast. There was like Steve Buscemi was in it, Danny Trejo,
Ving Rhames,
John Cusack, Dave Chappelle. Who am I forgetting? Yeah, just like a lot of sick actors.
The guy who
in it.
played Cyrus, what was his name?
Of course, John Malkovich.
Yes, thank you.
And you can kind of tell John Malkovich because it was a little bit outside of his wheelhouse, playing like a criminal, basically.
He was good though.
But you tell he was having fun with the role.
I couldn't wait to see his death.
Yeah, he was a very reprehensible sort of guy. And then there was like some guy who played every biker, like meth head biker guy throughout the 90s.
Is that the guy who flew the plane?
It's the guy who looked like a healthy Bobby Liebling.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that Bobby Liebling's older brother or something.
Yeah, who
with teeth
was not hadn't disappeared into like a drug-addled wormhole yet. But yeah, so that was like that was a fun watch. And then there was another film called Jiu-Jitsu, which I'm not even.
We didn't even make it through the first 30 minutes, I think.
Cage
you
is
fell
like
asleep.
He's listed as being in the movie though.
He's like not. He's just on the poster.
He's in the poster, so I figured Nick Cage would be in it. You know, I know that he's into martial arts, so I figured he'd be throwing some like sidekicks or something like that. But we were watching the movie, and then like I don't know, we were 20 minutes in, and there was no Nicolas Cage appearance. So if anyone out there has seen that movie, let us know if he actually shows up in it. Frank Grillo's in it though.
Still not impressed.
So yeah, that's what we've been checking out. So it's been like it's been very Nick Cage oriented.
We're gonna do Snake Eyes later tonight, right?
Definitely. Snake Eye. Well, that's a different caliber of film for sure.
I can't wait because I've never seen it.
I believe it takes place in Atlantic City.
My home state.
Yeah, we had a really fun time in Atlantic City at the Danzig show a couple of years ago.
Yes.
You got to talk into the mic, by the way.
Yes. I don't think we remember that much, but it was great.
I woke up bleeding with a swollen elbow.
And I had like 14 missed phone calls from you because I was sleeping in the room and I locked him out and I didn't hear him banging on the door.
Yeah, it was a fun
Sorry,
night.
Mike.
Yeah.
We made it though.
If you we don't have any calls this week, but if you guys want to get at us, you can hit us at 908-913-0782. That's on the Necro phone at 908-913-0782. What was that? You asked me a question over there. That's those things on the desk over there?
About that, yeah.
Well, what do you want to know?
I don't know. I was looking at them because I'm nosy.
They're called slides.
Okay.
You play guitar. It's like...
Oh, like country western.
Yeah, like when you hear like Leonard Skinner, and it's like... Wah, 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 wah. That's
okay.
You use those things to play.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, give us a call. We don't have any callers this week, but definitely hit us up. Let us know. We've had a lot of great calls lately. Recommendations for shows to check out, recommendations for movies to watch and cover. So give us a shout. So that brings us to this week's feature film, Strangeland, written by Dee Snider of Twisted Sister, a band that I actually am very, very fond of. Directed by John Pieplow, who I've never heard of before. His name doesn't have a hyperlink, so I don't even know if he's done anything else other than this film. It was released on October 2nd, 1998. So it's a very 90s sort of vibe in this film.
Ultimate.
A sleek 87 minutes in length. So not quite 90 minutes, which is like your typical feature-length film. Run down the cast real quick. There's some people who are in this movie. Of course, we have Dee Snider as Carlton Hendricks, a.k.a. Captain Howdy.
Kind of lame, but...
Yeah. Kevin Gage as Detective Mike Gage. Look at that.
Mm-hmm.
See? Elizabeth Pena as Tony Gage. Brett Harrelson as Detective Stephen Christensen. Linda Cardellini as Genevieve Gage. Robert Englund, the only other actor I recognize in here besides Dee Snider, who is not really an actor, as Jack Roth. And then there's like a bunch of other people that, come and go through the movie.
Yeah, they don't matter.
Yeah.
Kidding.
Yeah. That's about it. So, this is like one of the... There's like a term that we use for this film on Necromaniacs, these types of movies. And it's a new metal horror film.
Yes. And you had never seen it before.
No. And now, all right, now let's discuss why we chose this film. Okay, because, it's always like, there's some effort put into selecting movies to do on the show. And sometimes we run out of ideas, or sometimes we're hard pressed to come up with things. And then like this week, people have scheduling issues and we can't quite connect for the episode. And I've been aware of Strangelands for a long time because I know it came out in the 90s. I did not see it. This was my very first time seeing this movie. But you're familiar with this film.
I am very familiar with this film. I was a young adult when this came out, and, it was the 90s, and that's when, body modification was very popular. As a young adult, I actually worked for a piercing and tattoo shop, so that was my whole life back then. So when this came out, got a lot of buzz. Everyone was talking about it, and yeah. So I definitely went to the theater to see it. I think
you saw it in the theater?
Oh, yeah. It had a limited theatrical release because it's obviously an independent film.
Oh, wow.
So I'm pretty sure I either went to the Angelica or Village Cinema on West 12th Street in the city, and I saw it. And then when it came out, released on DVD or, VHS, I actually had a VHS of it.
Nice.
Not a DVD because I was too poor or something. I didn't have DVDs yet. But I had the original VHS, and I wish I still had it. But back then, that movie was everything because you didn't hear about this stuff in the mainstream. So it was a big deal when it came out, if you were in that world.
Now, in New York, I was not really familiar with that world. So was that a really big thing in New York City back in the 90s?
Yeah, like tattooing had just become legal in 1997, even though it was still going on underground. But with that came the rise in a lot of like tattoo and piercing shops. So in that area, it was just exploding. And then when that film came out, it was shocking that something like that would come out in theaters back then because it wasn't spoken about as publicly.
So this is part of that quote unquote modern primitive scene, right?
This film, I guess you could say it's based on that. This is kind of a cheesier version of it, but I am impressed with Dee Snider's research into certain body modifications.
I mean, I was familiar with the term modern primitive because I used to read the Excellent Research magazine, which covered a lot of really cool topics. Like there's a William Burroughs issue. There was like industrial culture issue. There was a whole issue devoted to modern primitive. And, that wasn't something I knew their piercing was big and scarification. And I've seen things like the Jim Rose sideshow and all that sort of stuff. But I obviously, I don't have any piercings or anything like that. So that was never really my thing. But what's actually interesting about this film is Dee Snider has, all the dialogue in this movie where he's like these voiceovers of him, like with this sort of manifesto-like dialogue. That actually is taken. I thought he wrote that. I thought like he came up with that text. Apparently, he didn't write that.
Who did?
This guy Fakir Musafar.
You know what's shameful? I should actually know this because I used to work at Unimax Tattoo Supply, so
Still there, right? Still there?
Oh, yeah, it's still there. So any listeners out there, if you're familiar with Unimax, give me a shout out. I worked there for a very long time, but I started going there in the 90s, and we had tons of books by him.
Okay,
Fakir Musafar. Yeah.
So Fakir Musafar is he's like kind of the purveyor of that whole thing.
Godfather of all that.
His actual name is Roland.
Modern primitive
Roland Loomis.
Lifestyle. Yeah.
Yeah. Roland Loomis is his actual
I believe
name.
He's since passed away.
Yeah, he passed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now that I find this to be interesting, the whole idea of enlightenment through like these ordeals. It kind of I'm going to go off on a little bit of a tangent here. It kind of goes off.
What else is new?
Yeah, you have to live with me every day, so you know me and how I like to talk about things. All right, so the whole modern primitive thing has to do with dealing with pain and enlightenment and reaching these sort of elevated states and all this sort of stuff, So that seems very similar to the idea of martyrs. And, long-time listeners will remember that we covered the French film Martyrs, and that had to do with going through ordeals and seeing the face of God and going through pain and endorphin rushes and stuff like that. So I can see the interest and I can see the allure of getting involved in the modern primitive self-culture. I don't know, it's just interesting. So this movie, even though it is like, I feel like this movie had some kind of commentary associated with it, and maybe not to the most successful degree, but there was something that was being said with this film, maybe.
In your opinion, what would that be?
Well, my opinion was just sort of, like showing this culture and maybe having people check it out and investigate it, you know, because like you can also make the argument that it's not shown in a positive light either.
It's not. And
yeah, go ahead.
In my personal opinion, I just feel like, well, it was interesting that this film was made at that time. I think he was also trying to like capitalize on the popularity
Really?
of that. Oh yeah, totally.
Oh, okay.
That was my view when it came out, but I had to see it. I had to see it, but that's always been my view that like, you know, okay, maybe he's interested in this, but it's like a very popular thing right now.
Actually, does Dee Snider even have tattoos?
I don't know. None.
Huh. I don't know. You know, I've seen Twisted Sister, but before, like way years and years
Maybe
and
I'm
years
just
ago.
more jaded than you, but I see
No, I
it as
don't
a
think so.
capitalization on like a current trend.
No, I'm interested to hear what you have to say
Yeah.
about that. Let me see if Dee Snider has any tattoos.
I'm certain he doesn't.
Handsome guy.
Okay. He's got good teeth.
All right, so he does have.
Okay,
Yeah.
I stand corrected. I apologize. I'm wrong.
Yeah, he has a couple, but you know, he's not like one of these like tattooed like dudes. You know what I
But
mean?
the makeup in the movie, that half-body tribal was so bad.
But that was the thing in the '90s.
God,
Tribal
it was
tattoos.
just like an over-exaggeration.
I
It was
have a
just
couple
so bad.
tribals.
So do I. It was
see
my
that?
first tattoo, a tramp stamp.
You see, I have a tribal. Right
Oh,
there.
yes, I do.
You know, it is what it is, man. It's
Sign of
kinda
the 90s.
Sign that you're of age in the 90s. Yeah. All right. So roughly this whole that was interesting though. I like that there's something more to this film because really it's very dated and extremely dated. The computers are gigantic.
I love it, though. It's also, again, a movie that gives me a longing sense of nostalgia.
And like everyone was on dial-up. There was no Wi-Fi or
You weren't reachable immediately.
yeah. Well, that you know how I feel about that. I
Yeah.
love that idea. All right. So there's two young girls, Genevieve and Tiana, and they're just like high school kids getting into being online. You know, so and being online was not something that no one had cell phones back then. So you had to go home and go to your room and be on a computer. And experiencing the internet was literally through your computer. It wasn't through any kind of devices or anything like that. So back in that era, it was like the internet was like the Wild West in some ways. Like there was like a lot of these kind of shadowy places that people creeped out in, and there was like, you know, message boards and
Chat rooms, AOL.
And that's kind of where they end up meeting this guy with the screen name Captain Howdy, which is kind of a stupid name, but whatever.
I know, that kind of annoys me. I know I'm nitpicking, but I'm like, come on, dude. Think of something more interesting than that.
Yeah, like...
It just reminds me of The Exorcist. Like, you're ripping off themes from different horror movies throughout history.
Yeah, well, all right, that's a good point. And you know why? Because, like, you know, when people do these things, they drop these hints that they're in the know about, like, certain things. Like, I felt like having his screen name Captain Howdy is like Dee Snider being. And I don't want to denigrate Dee Snider because I like Dee Snider, but he's like, let me drop in this nugget.
Exactly. Yeah.
That I know The Exorcist.
He could also argue too that it's initials of his character's real legal government name, but you could have done something different. I just thought it was cheesy.
I mean, if you want Captain Howdy, CH, right? So his
name was what? Calverton.
His name
in the movie.
His name was Carlton Hendricks.
Carlton Hendricks. I apologize.
Yeah, so he could have had like Caspian Hellfire or something. That would have been a cooler screen name for him, maybe, right? Mm-hmm. Caspian Hellfire.
Captain Hellion. I don't know.
No. Yeah, something like that.
Don't rip off The Exorcist.
Yeah. Captain Hellion. That maybe they would have thought he was Dwid from Integrity with that name.
Don't. Anyway.
All right. So anyway, these two girls get sucked into going to a party, quote unquote, at Captain Howdy's house. Of course, this is a trap. And when neither one of the girls come home the next morning, you know, there's big issues. You know, Mike Gage was a cop, and that's one of the fathers. And you know, now they're going on the search for Genevieve and Tiana. They find Tiana's car, and it's like they pull it out of a lake, and they see that Tiana's tortured dead body is inside, but there's no sign of Genevieve, and she's still in the clutches of Captain Howdy. Now, throughout all this, there's a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of these like voiceovers with Dee Snider with his like hardcore Long Island accent, giving these like these like monologues.
This is making me want to watch it again.
I know there's something oddly compelling about this movie.
No,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean something like a scenario like this, I feel like could happen still, really, right?
Nah, I don't know.
Like with all these apps that are out there and everything.
I mean, sure, people get catfished all the time, but
Yeah.
I think people are more safe now with technology.
I guess so. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's like
People are more aware; they're not as dumb.
yeah, but yeah, true. Back then in the internet, I think back in the 90s, people were like a lot more trusting of these things.
Yeah, because people were still learning what the internet was all about.
So all these monologues, like I mentioned earlier, they were all excerpts of Fakir Musaffar's ideologies. So we're seeing like abduction, torture, and it's interesting. Like I didn't really think of it this way, but it is kind of casting a shadow on the modern primitive, really, if you think about it. Like it kind of casts a shadow.
Yes, because it has that criminal element because he's abducting girls.
Yeah. So
Actually, not just women, men too.
Yeah, some men were also captured in this one too. Yeah, I don't know. It's just at first I was like, oh, this is actually kind of bringing into light this other subculture, which I was aware of, but it wasn't really something I paid too much attention to. But now that I'm thinking about it, it actually is kind of maybe modern primitive shaming people for being involved in that sort of thing. But I don't think, personally myself, I don't see anything. I think it's cool. I think it's interesting.
I personally don't think that was his intention in doing this movie, but it comes across that way. It could come across that way to certain people.
And you thought it was more of like an exploitation though, right?
A little bit. I thought it was just so cheesy and bad, but I had to see it when it came out. Like, because we were all like, oh my God, what is this about? Someone's doing a movie on this? Dee Snider? I was just like, oh gosh, this is such a gross over-exaggeration of people who live this lifestyle.
Yeah. And so did you have that impression right away when you saw it back in the 90s, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But it was so bad that I loved it.
I remember seeing it, but like back then, things weren't so easy to come by as far as like, I didn't even know it came out in the theaters. And you said...
Yeah, I mean, I was lucky, because I grew up here, lived here my whole life, so I had easy access to all the independent theaters in the city.
Yeah.
So it wasn't hard to find a showing.
So eventually they capture this dude, and they find him not guilty due to criminal insanity, and they, instead of putting him in jail, he gets put into a rehabilitation basically. So he's not because he has a chemical imbalance, so they put him on medication and all that sort of stuff. So there is a little bit of that injustice element to it, where this guy went out and did these horrible things to people, and then they found him to be criminally insane, and they put him into a facility to be rehabilitated, and then ultimately he's released and back into his old neighborhood. And now we have the other side. We have the kind of docile version where he's
khaki and cardigan wearing.
You're wearing khakis, yeah. And the Carlton Hendricks guy, Captain Howdy's dead, and Carlton Hendricks is the guy.
Dead or dormant?
Well, now we're getting to that, So he's dormant and medicated heavily, right? So without the medication, Captain Howdy reemerges. So it's like an interesting sort of thing where it's like which personality is actually the real personality? It's like, is this drugged version of him the real person, or this like raging like pain addict, like masochist, sadomasochistic sort of guy the real person? Sadomasochism, the whole SM kick seemed to be like in the movies a lot back in the 90s.
Really? What other movies are you thinking of?
I don't know. I just feel like people were more into like SM back then or whatever. You know?
I have no idea. I do remember, though, in the 90s, there was a bar on 23rd Street called La Maison de Sade.
Yeah.
It was
La,
an
La
S&M
Maison de Sade, House
Yeah.
of de Sade, yeah.
It was, I believe, if I remember, it was an S&M bar. It was very popular. And actually, Stacy from Enchantments used to be a bartender there.
I was going to cut in with that.
Yeah.
That my old boss, Stacy, used to work there. Yeah.
It's on 23rd Street, I think. I remember passing it all the time.
Yeah, I used to work near 23rd Street and walk by that area all the time too, so I was aware of it. And then when I went to work for Stacy, I remember her telling me about how she bartended in a couple different places, which is interesting because Stacy doesn't drink. You know, she smokes quite a bit and is a vegan, but she doesn't drink either. Interesting. Yeah, nice lady though. So yeah, he's trying to live his life in this town. People are, singling him out. They're, sort of rightly so, I think, if he went out and murdered all these people and did all
He's
this
a
horrible
pariah.
thing. He's a pariah, yeah. So, yeah, that's like his existence. So, another girl goes missing. And they jump to conclusions, and they think that Hendrix is actually behind this thing, which maybe he is, maybe he's not. They abduct Hendrix, and he drops his medication bottle, and it's run over by a car. And then, of course, without his medication, he turns into Captain Howdy again. And and then of course things go wrong for him after that. But this movie is on Tubi right now.
Yes.
So you can go out there and watch it.
Highly recommend.
Yeah. So
It's free. Do it. It's awesome.
yeah. So what would you, if you were to give this a score out of 1 to 5, what would you give this movie? And why?
Oh, gosh. Okay. Probably a 2.5 because it is super cheesy. I do love it, but it's bad. Like, the acting is pretty bad. The writing is kind of corny, but, it's fun. And it's only 87 minutes, so it's a short story.
I would give it a 3 out of 5, actually.
Okay.
Yeah,
Why?
because I recommend watching this once at least, but it might not be something you'd watch again.
Exactly.
However, you and I are talking about watching it again.
Because we're chatting about it, and we like to make lots of jokes when we watch movies, so...
Maybe we should do like a commentary track or something.
I don't know. Spare your listeners, maybe.
It has quite a soundtrack, though.
Yes.
If you
And it has a Bile in it. Apparently, a local band. A lot of people know Bile.
local meaning a New York City based band.
Oh, sorry, I should have specified that.
Yeah, we got people from all over the world here, man. It's an international podcast you're on.
Oh, hi, world.
Most notably, we've got Kid Rock,
Mike's favorite.
right-wing extremist and Trump supporter. Kid Rock.
Dump supporter.
Snot is on this, who I only remember seeing that name in print back in the 90s. I don't know what they really sound like. Pantera, which Pantera is a band that actually appeals to a very large swath of people. It's like metal people like them, people who like hardcore, like, if you're into hardcore music, you also can find a way to like Biohazard. Pantera. You can find Biohazard too if you're into hardcore music. And also, if in the 90s, nu metal was on the rise.
It took over the 90s.
It took over.
Part of the 90s.
Yeah. Pantera also appealed to nu metal kids. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I also find that Pantera appealed to people that were into the more underground stuff too. Like,
It's like what we always talk about. Pantera is one of those bands that like everyone likes, that we also say about Misfits, Motorhead,
Misfits.
and Slayer.
Yeah.
Everybody from different subgenres of whatever are into those bands.
Like in my age group, Pantera came like there's like a division between. I don't think they're a bad band at all. I think they're actually a quite excellent band. But there was I was maybe a year or two older than to come along for me. You know, like I thought the Cowboys from Hell album was pretty cool, and then the harder stuff later on I thought was cool, but I was never like a hardcore fan though, really, you know. But we also have Anthrax, which, you know,
Everyone loves Anthrax.
yeah, they're a good band. Marilyn Manson, which I know you're a fan of.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Let me clarify this, okay? I love Portrait of an American Family that came out in 1994. That is his, Marilyn Manson's greatest album, in my personal opinion. After that, his stuff's okay, but as a person, he's trash. Yeah. Let's just say it.
Yeah.
But I do love that album. I still rock out to it, and I stand by that.
Recently, we did a rewatch of Sons of Anarchy.
Oh, God.
Earlier this year.
He was actually good in that. He played a perfect creep.
Yeah, he was good. He played this like Nazi, like pervert guy in jail.
I forgot his name in there. I can't remember right now.
His name. But he was good. He had, good hair and all that sort of stuff. I saw Marilyn Manson once. I told you about that, right?
I think so.
We played at a festival with Marilyn Manson and Rob Zombie and the Deftones and all these people.
Was it Ozfest?
It was Ozfest meets Knotfest.
Yes, you did tell me that.
Yeah, it was like a 2-day festival, and we played on the Ozfest part of the day, which was like with Ozzy as the headliner. Rest in peace, Ozzy. And then the second day was I think Rob Zombie headlined, and we were like thinking, oh, we got to see Marilyn Manson. So we were there for 2 days because the tour we were on was, the bands were spread out over 2 days, so we couldn't leave. So we could leave, I guess, but we would have nowhere to go. And that was when he had gotten injured on tour.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, he was on the road and something happened, like something fell on him on stage.
Oh, is that when he was in a wheelchair or something?
He was in like this mechanized.
Oh.
So like we're watching the band play, and they have this big intro with like samples and all this like stuff, and then he wheels out on this motorized cart like this. He's standing like upright, like vertically, and I'm like, oh, look at this! Like I thought he was on into like this, doing this like Gary Newman, Cars like thing, and I was like, oh, that's cool. That's like I guess that's his thing now. But then I noticed that he was in this chair for the entire, going into the second song. And then someone told me that he got injured somewhere, like upside down, like a fake like gun fell on him, or like an upside down cross fell on him and crushed his legs or something like that. So yeah, that was Marilyn Manson. But I never really got into his music myself. We also have Soulfly.
I'm not really familiar with them. I was never into them. Not my thing.
Not really my thing, though I do love Sepultura. And then, of course, Twisted Sister. What was your experience with Twisted Sister? Anything?
Just that hit.
Which one was that?
We're not going to take it? Yeah, but I mean, I was never like a Twisted Sister fan like that.
I love Twisted Sister.
Also different generations, I think.
Yeah, I'm older than Tina.
Not that much.
So, but yeah, Twisted Sister were like kind of, I would say they're kind of legendary, really, in the tri-state area. Like they were a band that was kind of self-made in some ways. They just had been a band for a while. They were in the club scene for a while doing covers, and then they just, through sheer will, kind of overcame all that stuff and became a very successful heavy metal band, in the 80s and into the 90s. And I've always had a lot of respect for them, and I've always really enjoyed their material. And I like Dee Snider. I think he's a really cool guy, and especially now, the dude's like what, in his 70s?
Almost 70.
Yeah, and he moved to North Carolina.
Yes, and actually, can I backtrack for a second?
Yeah.
So speaking of that, where that's heading, I did want to mention that in 2015 there were plans to make a sequel to this called Strangeland Disciples.
Really?
Yeah, but it was shelved. Nothing ever happened because he wanted to give it an NC-17 rating. He wrote the story, I believe, but nothing really happened after that. So maybe it will. You never know.
That's interesting, man.
Yeah, you could look it up online. Easy Google search.
So the script exists.
I believe so, yes.
But one of the things that he was doing down in North Carolina was setting up some sort of film, like
a family production.
Yeah, production
film company. Yeah.
Yeah, so I got to give that dude like a lot of credit for
Oh, yeah.
being like a creative sort of guy, like trying to do something, creative like that. So maybe we'll get Strangelands 2 Disciple.
Yeah, I'll show you after this is done.
But yeah, so that's it, man. That's definitely check this out if you want to go back to especially if you have a certain age and you
want 90s nostalgia.
Yeah, if you want 90s nostalgia, go back, check it out when everyone had gigantic computers and there's no cell phones and people listen to nu metal and like to get suspended and pierced. Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll talk to you next week. Take care.
Steel, a flash of light. You know you're not going home tonight. Be it shackle, switch, doctors of mine. Nowhere to run, everywhere you'll find. You can't escape from the bed you made. When your time has come, you'll accept of steel, a flash of light. You know you're not going home tonight. Be it Jekyll, switch, doctor of the mind. There's nowhere to run, everywhere you'll find. You can't escape from the bed you made. When your time has come, you'll accept God.